All right, everybody. This would be the moment where you all should open those little crunchy bags of chips that you have, because you're not going to want to have the noise make you miss any of the words of wisdom of our next speaker. So it's relatively rare that one gets the opportunity to introduce a legend, especially a New York legend. And our next speaker, Zoe Koplowitz, is just that. In a world that values fast, she is perpetually slow. In a world that demands first, she gives new meaning to the word last. More than 2 decades ago, Zoe Koplowitz completed her first marathon. It started out as an attempt to salvage her life from the ravages of multiple sclerosis. To date, she has completed 24 marathons, consistently each time finishing in last place. And she has set world records in New York City, Boston, and London. She has presented motivational speeches from the shores of Oahu to the Grand Ole Opry in Tennessee. And she's been featured on numerous national TV and radio programs. And by the way, you might have seen her on a New York City bus in one of the Milk Mustache ads. Today, Zoe will share with us some of the true, inspiring, and amazing adventures that she has experienced in life along the marathon course. Poignant and authentic stories about ordinary people learning some of the most extraordinary lessons that life has to offer. The power of a dream, courage in the face of adversity, the beauty of unconditional love. So please join me in extending a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Zoe Koplowitz.
I was going to levitate, but I saved the showy stuff for Saturday nights. It's a tremendous honor and pleasure to be here. I am a native New Yorker. I never get to speak in New York City. I travel all over the country, go to Europe, but I have rarely ever speak in New York, so I'm just thrilled to be here. Lord willing, 2 weeks from today, I will be doing the New York City Marathon yet again. So I'm in my countdown mode now. I have indeed completed 23 marathons, all in last place. The fastest I ever did was 19 hours and 15 minutes. I was a speed demon. I was a blur. You couldn't even see me. The slowest I've ever done was 33 hours and 10 minutes. My best friend Hester, who's gone along on all of them with me, actually fell down asleep on the floor. And I thought, oh my God, I have finally killed her. It was like a "so how tired was she" joke. You know? We do a lot of caffeine and a lot of Advil, and step by step we get through the night and the following day. It's been a tremendous amount of adventure over the years. Brought some things to show you guys. I actually had a Milk Mustache ad that Annie Leibovitz shot, and in exchange for my beauteous persona, they donated $10,000 to the MS Society. That was really nice, yeah. Originally, the ad was run full length so you could see the crutches. And then I heard, like, about a month or two later that the ad had been rerun on the back cover of a magazine called We, which was at the time an upscale magazine for disabled folks. It assumed that we read and that we had lives and purchasing power. Really excited to see it, I went to one of these magazine stores that had like every magazine in the world. And I went to the gentleman and I asked him for a copy of We, whereupon he raised his eyebrows, smirked, went into the back room, and came out with a copy of a French pornographic magazine called We. Ah. The young lady on the cover had on less clothing than I wear to take a shower with. She had one leg up in Canada and the other one somewhere down in New Mexico. This rapidly deteriorates into a "so how dumb was she" joke. I was so dumb that I flipped over to the back cover and prayed to God that I was not on it. The next thing that came along was a Legs Pantyhose ad. They donated $50,000 to the MS Society. I actually want to marry the man who touched up this ad. I'm leaving my husband. He knows. That's it. I want to look this way every day for the rest of my life. And I'm at that age now. I just turned 62, where my face wakes up an entire hour after my body does, and it is really scary. Then I got an opportunity to do an article for Sports Illustrated. When they called, I was sure it was for the cover of the swimsuit issue. I mean, how could it not be? But it wasn't, and it is still a fabulous article. It makes the point that it's not always or necessarily about having the contract, the car, the $1 million. It's about doing what you do from the center of your being and getting the job done. And that truly, for me, is what winning is about. I know that all of you here know firsthand that life is not, for me, is not just about milk ads and Sports Illustrated. I was diagnosed at the age of 25 with MS. Very, very little was known about it back then. I'm 62 now, so that's a lot of years in between. I'm living proof that there is life after MS, and it's a good life. Maybe you have to work a little harder for it sometimes, but it's still a great life. But when I was diagnosed at 25, I was so angry, it was unbelievable. I felt like, how could you do this to me, God? What did I ever do to you that you would sick me with a disease where I could go blind? I could end up in a wheelchair? What could I ever have done to you that was that bad? And I walked around being bitter and angry for a couple of weeks. And then one day I got on a New York City bus, and a much, much older man in his late 80s fell down at my feet and died of a massive heart attack holding on to my hand. There was no CPR way back then. And the only thing that I ever knew about him is that his name was Joseph. And in his ending was a new beginning for me. I realized that God and the world did not owe me a darned thing. And if I had a year, or I had a month, or I had a week, I needed to get off my tail, stop feeling sorry for myself, and get on with my life. And that was what I decided to do. A few weeks after the incident on the bus, I was walking past an appliance store, and there were about like a zillion appliances in the window, all TV sets. And only one of them was turned on. And on that TV set was no picture, just static. And it dawned on me that that was exactly how I was leading my life since I was diagnosed with MS. I was stuck in front of a TV set and a world that only had static on it. And at that point, I developed something that's been very, very central to my life. And I call it the TV set theory of life. I really believe that when each of us is born, we're born with a TV set that has 100 channels on it. 99 of those channels have something absolutely amazing. One channel has static. Everybody in the whole world has that static channel. Mine happens to have MS on it. And I realized I could either sit in front of that static channel for the rest of my life, or I could get up and change the channels and see what was on the other 99. And that was what I decided to do. And over the years, I really did. I've had good times, good friends, good jobs, because I live with a chronic condition just as you do. And I don't know what the next day is going to bring. Yes. Sometimes it's a lot harder work than most people have to do to get through the day. But in the end, it was all doable. And then, I guess it's 23 years ago, I had an evil case of bronchitis. And I'm a big believer in vitamins and natural supplements. Antibiotics are always my choice of last resort. And I was taking a lot of vitamin C, but back then they only had those big old horse pills. They didn't have the time-released gel caps that we have now. I got one of them caught diagonally in my throat, couldn't get it up, and I literally choked to death. I was very fortunate someone was there in the office with me. He did the Heimlich maneuver, started CPR, and got me back. I could not believe that I could die from something as stupid as choking to death on a vitamin pill. How ironic is that? And I decided at that point that I wanted back every single thing I had surrendered to MS over the years. If keeping a low profile was not going to keep me on the planet any longer, then I was determined to get back everything I had given up to MS, and I wanted it more than anything. I had to think of something that would take every single thing that I had and still demand something more. And that was when I decided to do my first New York City Marathon. I had no clue how to do a marathon whatsoever. I truly thought it was mind over MS. And I had this vision of myself vaunting across the finish line with the wind blowing in my hair and a designer tracksuit. With no appliances, by the way. So I'm very balance impaired. I would go a couple of feet and fall flat on my face. Not to be deterred, I went out and bought knee pads, elbow pads, and a helmet. My husband thought that the cognitive stuff was definitely kicking in. He was sure of it. Then it dawned on me I could have my picture of what the marathon looked like, or I could have the real thing. And if I wanted the real thing, I better find out how to get it. I called up a group called the Achilles Track Club, which is an international club for disabled athletes. And I went to their meeting, and I met friends that have lasted a lifetime. I realized that because I had MS, I did not have the market cornered on unpredictability. There were people there who left their houses one day, were hit by a car, and woke up a month later out of a coma, totally paralyzed. And they picked themselves up, dusted themselves off, and reinvented themselves. And I realized that there's a huge difference between having a disease and being one. Being one means that you're either obsessed with it 24/7, or you're sitting around either waiting for the cure or waiting for the other shoe to fall. I made the decision to pick myself up, reinvent myself, and get on with my life. The first marathon we did was the fastest I've ever gone, 19 hours and 15 minutes. And gradually, of course, over the years, I've gotten older. I have definitely gotten slower. The last one wasn't so bad. We ended up in the middle, 29 hours and some odd minutes. This coming year, 2 weeks from now, will be a very, very special one for me. My best friend died 3 weeks ago. And this will be the first year that we will be without him. and we are dedicating this marathon to the memory of Mike Selzick, who's very well known and MSNBC sports reporter. He was my BFF, definitely. My friends kid around and say that there are 8 million stories in the naked city, and at least half of them are mine. And they're probably right. I would love to share all of them here with you today, but we'd be here until next Christmas, no doubt about it. So I've picked two that have been very, very central to the core of my life. I met a man named Donald Arthur a little while ago, and he had an extraordinary story. He's the recipient of a heart transplant, and he was very depressed after he received his new heart. He did not know for the life of him what he had done that could have warranted his receiving such an amazing gift. And he was sitting feeling really sad. He had the TV on, and he saw me cross the finish line of the New York City Marathon 30-some-odd hours after I had started, and he was amazed. He thought, well, if that old broad can do it in 30 hours, certainly with a new heart, I can go out and do it. And then he thought, but why would I? And he thought, I would do it because I could bring notoriety to what a gift, the gift of life through transplant is. And he did go out and do it. And he's done it again and again and again all over the country. And in New York City, he does it with the family of the gentleman whose heart he has. He wants the family to know that their father's heart has found a good and loving home in his chest, and that all of it stands for something. I didn't meet Donald until there was a small article in our track club letter saying how I had been the reason that he went out and started doing marathons at all. And it was a very, very emotional meeting, and we've remained very good friends ever since. And I learned that you never know how you can touch and you can influence people. There is no way of knowing. Someone created victory for himself out of my victory and has become one of my closest friends. The other story is very, very deeply personal, and I have never told it before in a public place. I've given a lot of thought to this. My old high school closed in June after 135 years. And I have never been so distressed over anything in my entire life. And I couldn't figure out why. I know that doors open and doors close and things change in life. I know that better than anybody. I went there early so I could sit alone in the classroom that my graduation year was supposed to meet in. And I realized that the answer why I was so distressed was a very, very simple one. I grew up extremely, extremely abused. I've had dentures from the time that I'm 19. That's how abused I was. And my high school was the only place for those 4 years that I was safe, that no one could harm me for that portion of the day. And that was the thing that made me sad, that it was going away. I was sitting there thinking about all the times I had, when I was back in school. And a woman, probably my own age, she would have to be, walked in and she said, I know who you are, but you don't know who I am. She said, and I've come to apologize. And I said, what could you possibly apologize for? My goodness, all these years. And she said, I watched you. We were not in the same grade. She said, but I watched you when we were kids. And I never understood why you never took your school jacket off. Well, I couldn't because I was banged up most of the time. She said, then one day I passed you on the staircase, and I saw that you had marks around your throat, and you had bruises that makeup couldn't even cover. She said, and I knew, and I realized when I saw your hands that they were defensive bruises. And she said, forgive me for not knowing what to do. She said, I was a kid. I didn't know any better. She said, but I want you to know that that day when I figured it out, I went to church, I got down on my knees. She said, I already knew I was going to become a teacher. And she said, and I made a promise in front of God that I would never, ever allow any child in my care to show up looking like that and not do something about it. She said, and I've kept that promise all these years. She said, and I wanted to come here today and let you know that every time I intervened and every time I asked the right questions, she said, I would send a prayer your way for your health and your happiness and your recovery. And the whole point of how the two stories tie together is that Arthur made huge changes in his life with his new heart through my victory. And the lady I met at the high school closing made huge changes in the lives of Lord knows how many other kids because of my challenges. And I believe it's not just our victories that give other people courage and stamina and the ability to go on. It's also our challenges. And I really believe that there are three components: faith, intention, and commitment. When we have faith and really, really believe that we can make a difference, then we can intend to make a difference. When we intend to make a difference, then we can commit to making a difference. And once we have that threefold plan of faith, intention, and commitment fully aligned in our lives, then every single thing that we do every day of our life, no matter how glorious or how mundane it is, it offers the possibility of doing sacred work. And I absolutely believe that. And I ask you to look not just to your small victories, but also to your challenges. They have the ability to make a difference to other people. And I know that firsthand and for a fact. People over the years have asked me a lot of questions. I wear, if you think these earrings are out of the zone, you should see the ones I wear during the marathon. I figure if I'm going to be out there for a long time, I'm going to have a good time, and you're going to know that you've seen me. People ask me, do the earrings weigh you down? Yeah, I would have won the marathon if it hadn't been for the earrings, but it was a choice between a fashion statement and a Lexus, and I just went for the fashion statement. The other question that they ask me is why year after year after year do you insist on coming out and doing a race that you cannot possibly win? And the answer to that is that I absolutely do win. Every single time that I get up and I train when I don't want to, I win. When I go to pick up my number with 30,000 other runners, with the best of them and the rest of them, I've won again. When I cross that finish line, whether it's 33 hours or 2 days, which some year it's likely to be, I've won again. And maybe the biggest lesson of all is that winning is not always or necessarily about being first. It can be. There's plenty of room for that. It's about doing every single thing you do from the center of your being with every single thing you've got. And I really believe that. At this stage of the game, this is the psychic portion of my presentation. I can read your minds. You're sitting there saying, yeah, she's probably an okay speaker, but I couldn't even stay awake for 33 hours, so I don't know about this marathon deal, you know? Here's the deal. 99 2/3% of everybody in this room does a marathon every day of their life in one way or another. For some of you, just getting up, getting dressed, and getting your day together is your 26.2 miles. A marathon is not just run in terms of miles, it's about the commitment and the energy that you put into your life. For all you are and all you do and all you may yet become in your lifetime. Give yourselves the finisher's medals that you so richly deserved. I don't think that everybody in this room is meant to run a marathon per se, but I do believe that you're meant to have a dream, one that asks you for every single thing that you've got. And a dream is a wonderful thing, but without a plan, it is just a possibility. And no matter how great your dream is and how good your plan is, somewhere along the line, you're going to find what runners know as the wall. It's that point where you have nothing left to give, and you still have to go on. And when you hit that wall, I beg you to remember me standing up here saying, yes, you can. I know that you can. People give me way too much credit. There's nothing all that remarkable about me. You can ask my husband, he will tell you, definitely. I just keep putting one foot in front of the other until I get where I gotta go in my life. And along the way, there has been so much magic to be had. Yeah, I have to work harder for it sometimes, and so do you. But it is still there, I promise you that. As our time together draws to a close, I ask you for your good wishes and your prayers over the next 2 weeks. This marathon is going to be a tough one for me. For one reason or another, I no longer produce any kind of tears. My tear glands have atrophied. I no longer produce saliva. So this is new for me, and it's going to be yet another challenge on the plate, being out there 30-some-odd hours. So I ask for your prayers and your good wishes sent my way. And anyone who wants to drop me a note for me to take with me along the marathon course, and I do take all my letters, they can reach me at www.zoe, Z-O-E, Koplowitz, Koplowitz.com. And you will cross the finish line with me, I promise. Until our lives and our paths cross again, and they will at some time, I'm part of the New York City chapter. I want to thank you for your kind attention, and I want to leave all our lovely contestants with a parting gift. I'd like to leave you with the word yes, indelibly printed in your heart and in your mind for all time. It's one of the smallest words in the English language, and also one of the largest. It's a word of infinite power and possibility. Go out and do that thing that calls to your soul and settle for nothing less. Thank you, and God bless you. I'm sorry.
I'm sure many of you will be out there in 2 weeks cheering Zoe on or praying that she slow down a little to guarantee that she yet again finishes last. But now we know that it's really not the MS that slows her down, but the weight of all those thousands of letters that she must get. We're going to take a few-minute break, just about 5 minutes before we resume the afternoon session with our exciting guest speaker.